Hello from Rocket Lab's Mission Control Centre, where we are bringing you a live look at the Electron rocket ready on the pad at Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1 in Mahia, New Zealand. Thank you for joining us this afternoon from Rocket Lab's 22nd Electron launch, a mission we have called Love at First Insight for our customer BlackSky through mission integration partner Spaceflight. I'm Muriel Baker here with you from our Mission Control Centre in Auckland, New Zealand. We are about 19 minutes away from the scheduled launch of this mission at 2:38 p.m. local time or 1:38 a.m. UTC. We're targeting liftoff right at the top of our launch window with backup opportunities available over the fortnight in case we need to scrub or stand down for any reason from today's launch attempt. We are also keeping a close eye on the weather off the coast where, for the first time, we have a helicopter stationed offshore, ready to take part in our rocket recovery operations by observing the return of Electron's booster from space as part of our work to make Electron the world's first reusable orbital class small rocket. This mission will be the third time we'll bring Electron's first stage back to Earth under a parachute before landing it softly in the ocean to be recovered by our recovery engineers on a nearby ship. We have water-landed Electron twice before on our 16th and 20th Electron launches, but this third time includes the introduction of that helicopter that will simulate flying in formation with the returning booster as a test for future attempts to recover the booster from the air with a helicopter instead. We have cameras stationed on the chopper and will hopefully be able to bring you live views of Electron's return from space from about T+10 minutes after liftoff. Regardless of whether we get those live shots, we will bring you updates throughout this broadcast on those operations as soon as we have them.
Test toggled and successful. And LD confirms I'm monitoring mission called LB.
On the satellites on board today's mission, we've had to lengthen Electron in order to fit the two Gen 2 satellites for BlackSky inside Electron's fairing. These payloads are the company's latest observation smallsats for their low Earth orbit constellation. They capture high-resolution images of our planet that are combined with BlackSky's artificial intelligence platform to analyse and make sense of those images, to track trends from a region's economic recovery from COVID-19 through to international cargo transport, and provide analytics and insights to industries including infrastructure, land use, defence, supply chain management, and humanitarian aid. Love at First Insight is the first of 3 back-to-back dedicated missions for BlackSky, with the next targeted for liftoff during a 2-week launch window that opens before the end of this year. The beauty of owning and operating the world's first private orbital launch site means that Rocket Lab is uniquely capable of launching to where and when our customers want to on their timeline. BlackSky and Spaceflight are using that advantage to launch these satellites quickly over the next few weeks and deliver insights to decision makers around the world faster. Earlier, we caught up with Spaceflight at Launch Complex 1 to talk through the mission.
Hello from Rocket Lab's Launch Complex 1. My name is Brian Hirsch, and I am the mission manager for several of our upcoming launches with BlackSky. With me today is Lisa Middlebrook, Spaceflight's mission manager for today's launch, who will tell us a little bit about BlackSky's spacecraft on board Electron today. Lisa, welcome to Rocket Lab.
Thank you.
Tell me a bit about BlackSky's spacecraft on board Electron today. Where are they headed to on orbit, and what will they do there?
We're adding 6 Earth observation satellites to BlackSky's global constellation. These satellites are manufactured by LeoStella, a fellow space company in the Seattle area with whom BlackSky has been working closely with for years. They'll be heading to a mid-inclination orbit, which will allow these satellites to target a latitude band which is home to most of the world's population. These 3 launches will nearly double their constellation and further improve their ability to provide a rapid response to the changing world.
There's obviously a bit of a process to bring a satellite from a paper design to space. Tell me about the work you do as a spaceflight mission manager to help enable that.
On a day-to-day basis, it's essentially a project management role where the project is sending satellites to space. As mission managers at Spaceflight, We interface most closely with both the launch vehicle provider and the satellite customer. Our role begins the moment the contract is signed, and we carry it all the way through to launch, which is typically a 6 to 12 month cycle. While I'm the main interface, I have a whole team of people behind me supporting each mission. Right now, I'm helping coordinate the integration here at LC1. If any problems arise, it's my job to help clear the way to make sure that we can launch on time.
What's it like working and launching from Launch Complex 1 here in New Zealand?
Every morning when I head to the launch pad, I feel like I'm driving to the end of the earth. The area around Launch Complex 1 is deserted. Other than sheep, cows, and the ocean, there's nothing until you get to the end. And there you have cutting-edge rocketry. And the juxtaposition of the two is pretty amazing.
This mission is the first of 3 missions by Rocket Lab for BlackSky. Does that bring any additional considerations to your job as the mission manager?
We have 6 satellites, 3 launches, and 2 clean rooms. It's a bit of an orchestration to layer the standalone operations of one launch with encapsulation of another. Meanwhile, the loading dock is getting ready to have 2 more satellites arrive any day now, but we're making it work.
What's it like to work with the Rocket Lab team?
Because Electron is a small class rocket, and on this mission, we're the dedicated customer, Rocket Lab is able to be extremely accommodating. The Rocket Lab team is incredibly smart, professional, and a real pleasure to work with. You guys make it easy.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for all the hard work you've put into this mission, and thank you to the entire Spaceflight and BlackSky team. We're looking forward to the next 3 in a row.
Today's mission, combined with a satellite we already deployed earlier this year and the next 2 missions to come, represent the largest number of satellites BlackSky has committed to a single launch provider to date, and we are thrilled to be back on the pad with them once again today. A check-in on the countdown clock tells us we are just seconds away from the go, no-go poll for launch by this mission's launch director, Adam Slee. Let's listen into Mission Control and hear how we are shaping up for liftoff today.
All stations, this is LD on mission cord. We're proceeding with the go, no go sequence at this time. Stage, you go.
Stages go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
Beacon.
Beacon is go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
RSO.
RSO is go.
MET.
Met is go.
MM.
MM is go.
Recovery.
Recovery is go.
LD sup.
LD sub is go.
And can confirm execs go. We're currently T-minus 11 minutes 24 seconds and counting. We are currently go for the terminal count start at T-minus 10. From this time, the 3-way procedure is in effect.
There you have it. That's confirmation from our launch operators that Electron, the payload, and our crew are ready for launch, and we will be proceeding with the remainder of the count. Our Electron recovery team stationed offshore are also ready to proceed. The T0 liftoff time remains 2:38 p.m. New Zealand local time or 1:38 a.m. UTC. Electron is a 2-stage launch vehicle purpose-built as a dedicated rocket to small satellites. Standing 18 metres tall, Electron's iconic black look comes from its carbon composite structure that is both incredibly strong and extremely light, allowing us to really optimise the vehicle's lift capacity for its size. Electron remains the world's first carbon composite rocket to reach orbit and also boasts another world first in its 3D printed Rutherford engines that power both the first and second stages of the vehicle. These engines are fueled by a mix of liquid oxygen and RP1, a highly refined kerosene, and major components like the combustion chamber can be printed within just 24 hours. We've flown more than 200 of these engines to space, with today's mission bringing the count to 220. Housed on top of the second stage within the fairing is our kick stage, equipped with its own Curie engine, flight software and other systems to function as an orbital transfer vehicle to deliver payloads to their exact destination in space. with the kick stage travelling at up to 27,000 kilometres an hour. Inserting the payload to its specific orbital plane is a complex task that requires precision and flawless timing. It takes a dedicated team of engineers and technicians, hours of systems testing and checks and rechecks of every aspect of the vehicle and payload before our launch director gives the go to proceed with launch. Here's what goes into preparations and mission readiness in the hours before launch.
The countdown to launch is the most closely watched clock in mission control. Here are some of the things that take place at each milestone after the countdown begins. At T-minus 9 hours before launch, our crew are on site at Launch Complex 1 to configure the pad for launch and prepare to power on Electron for the day's operations. Meanwhile, our operators in mission control start checking in to their stations. At T-minus 7 hours, our operators will brief the launch director with a status update. Mission Control also receives its first weather check on what to expect at liftoff, including cloud cover and predicted wind speed at Launch Complex 1. Now, at T-minus 6 hours, our ground tracking stations begin to power up before Electron is prepared to go vertical on the pad. Soon afterward, Electron's Rutherford engines are tested with a short burst of engine fire to confirm all systems are operating as they should. At T-minus 5 hours through T-minus 3 hours, our range safety team runs through safety status checks for those on and around our launch complex on the peninsula, making sure the team and the public are kept safe during the day's launch attempt. Fuel loading of kerosene will soon begin on Electron, while additional vertical systems checks take place and the pad is evacuated. It's T-minus 3 hours now, and soon liquid oxygen will begin to flow into Electron. As the rocket slowly fills with this oxidizer, Electron's black body turns white as humidity in the air around the rocket freezes into a thin sheet of ice due to the freezing temperatures of the liquid oxygen inside. With 1 hour left to launch, it's crunch time for our operators. Vehicle cameras are switched to their launch settings. Our avionics team enables Electron for flight. Our final weather brief comes through, and the range safety status will confirm that the area is clear for launch. With 12 minutes left in the count, our launch director runs the go, no-go poll with our operators to make the final decision to proceed with the launch. All final checks are completed before we reach T-minus 2 minutes in the countdown. At this critical point, the countdown auto sequence begins and Electron's flight computers take over. The launch director begins counting down to liftoff from T-minus 10 seconds before the engines ignite 3 seconds before launch, and Electron lifts off the pad at T0 on its way to complete its next mission with the satellites on board.
As you can see, it's a massive team effort to deliver BlackSky's payloads to orbit today. Our operations are on track and remain green for an on-time liftoff at 2:38 p.m. local time. Let's delve a little bit more into how the recovery operations for this mission will take place. At around 2.5 minutes after liftoff, following normal launch procedure, the 9 Rutherford engines on Electron's first stage will shut down and Electron's first and second stages will separate. Electron's second stage will continue with the BlackSky satellites to space, where the kick stage will later separate and deploy the satellites. While the mission continues, Electron's first stage will begin its descent. A cold gas reaction control system will position the stage on an ideal angle to re-enter the atmosphere and help Electron to handle the 2,200 degrees Celsius heat and incredible pressure it experiences on the way back to Earth. Electron's booster is expected to reach up to 8 times the speed of sound before significantly decelerating to enable a drogue parachute to be deployed. That will take place at approximately 7.5 minutes into the mission, deploying at around 43,000 feet or 13 kilometers in altitude. This drogue parachute both increases the booster's drag and stabilizes its descent as it approaches the ocean. Earlier and higher than on previous flights, the large main parachute will be deployed less than a minute after the drogue at an altitude of 19,000 feet or 5.7 kilometers to further slow the stage and enable a controlled splashdown. Upon receiving the all clear from the recovery team stationed at sea, the nearby helicopter will be deployed to sight the returning stage and follow its descent. A key objective of this mission is to increase the drift time of Electron's first stage to test communications and tracking for future aerial recovery efforts. Once in the ocean, Rocket Lab engineers will attempt to retrieve Electron's first stage on board their vessel with their purpose-built Ocean Recovery and Capture Apparatus, or ORCA, a specialized cradle and winch system manufactured to Electron specifications, before securing the stage and transporting it back to Rocket Lab's production complex for analysis and inspection. With a live camera on the recovery helicopter, we will do our best to bring the video feed to you during the webcast. But of course, if we can't, we will keep you updated on those recovery events throughout the broadcast and on our social media. We are approaching, though, the final moments in the lead up to liftoff now, with just 2 and a bit minutes remaining on the clock. All systems are go and the weather is clear for T0. Very soon, Electron's flight computers will take over and command the countdown to launch. Once auto sequence begins, about 30 seconds later, we should hear the call that fueling Electron with liquid oxygen has been completed. Confirmation of first and second stage pressurization should follow, then on to the final 60 seconds and T-minus 10-second countdown before Electron lifts off the pad for our 20-second launch from Launch Complex 1. We're going to switch to the mission control comms channels now to listen in ahead of liftoff.
Vehicle is on internal power. AFTS is green and enabled for flight.
Copy avionics.
LOX load is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-geysering is disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 tanks are pressed.
High flow engine purge is enabled. Deluge activated.
T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Confirm liftoff.
Entered stage 1 burnout detect mode.
We are at T plus 46 seconds, and there goes another Electron on its way to space for this 22nd launch from the pad from Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1. Soon the rocket will experience its peak amount of stress as it travels incredibly quickly over a large distance. This moment is called maximum aerodynamic pressure, or what's known as max Q, and is one of the first gates Electron needs to clear to make it to orbit.
And past max Q.
And we have passed max Q, and Electron is continuing the journey to space. Propulsion looks nominal on Electron's first stage as the rocket approaches the next major milestones of launch. In a few moments, Electron's 9 Rutherford engines will throttle down and then shut off completely to slow the rocket down. This milestone is called main engine cutoff, or MECO, and it occurs just before Electron's first and second stages separate. Once that's happened, very quickly, Electron's 10th engine on the second stage will light up to maintain its trajectory and continue carrying the 2 satellites to orbit. After these launch events are cleared, it's then that our rocket recovery operations begin, with the boosters' descent back to Earth. But first, let's wait to hear the call out from Mission Control that those events have occurred successfully.
15 seconds to MECO.
MECO confirmed.
Stage separation successful.
Stage to ignition.
There you have it. Electron has had a successful MECO, stage separation, and second stage engine start. Stage 1 recovery operations will now proceed with the vehicle's successful stage separation. We are moments away now from Electron's fairing ejection. Let's keep an eye on our screens for that.
Bearing separation confirmed.
Electron's fairing has successfully separated as we get ready to deploy the 2 BlackSky satellites to their low Earth orbit within the hour. In about 1 minute or so, Electron's first stage will reach apogee. Now when the first and second stages separated, Electron's booster is still traveling at such a speed that it continues moving upward before gravity begins to take over. So once Electron's first stage reaches apogee, or its highest point, the only place for it to go next is back down. We should hear that call soon from Mission Control. Okay, we are just past T plus 4 minutes into flight, and Electron stage 2 is traveling nominally at a speed of over 8,000 kilometers an hour and an altitude of over 167 kilometers. In less than a minute, Electron's first stage should reach apogee with orientation of the stage underway as planned.
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Stage 1 apogee.
And with apogee confirmed, Electron's first stage is officially on its earthward trajectory. The next milestone in our recovery operations will be the deployment of the first chute on Electron's booster. We'll stick with the camera views on the rocket for as long as we can, but a reminder, we do expect them to cut out at some point on that return. Meanwhile, Electron's second stage engine is burning bright and beautiful on the way to orbit. The vehicle is currently at speeds of more than 10,000 kilometers per hour and an altitude of more than 200 kilometers. We have got some good telemetry coming in for how Electron is travelling to low Earth orbit. If you are just joining us, our 20-second mission is going well so far, with the second stage travelling at more than 11,000 kilometres per hour, more than 214 kilometres above Earth. Electron's booster is now on the correct angle of attack to re-enter the atmosphere from space, where it separated with the second stage as per normal launch procedure a few moments ago. All systems are continuing to perform well across both stages of the vehicle. Our next launch event will be the battery hot swap set to take place on Electron's second stage. Because our Rutherford engines maintain their power source from batteries, at a certain point those batteries run out of charge. So we need a fresh new one to keep the engine running. And what we do is we swap the power from the depleted batteries to a third fully charged one, all while keeping the second stage moving at more than 13,000 kilometers an hour. We'll hear that moment called out through mission control shortly, before we expect to hear the next recovery operation milestone, that deployment of the drogue parachute. Let's listen in.
Hot swap successful.
Battery jettison confirmed.
And stage 2 propulsion is holding nominal.
And there we go, that we had the good news of battery hot swap there on the Electron's second stage. Next up in recovery operations will be the main parachute release. We should be hearing that call shortly.
AFDS has safed. HVB discharge holding nominal.
Stage 1 main chute deploy.
The parachute on Electron's booster has successfully deployed, and so our recovery helicopter is in the air on its way to get a glimpse of the booster coming back to Earth. All going well, the first stage should now glide gently toward the ocean, remaining in the air for another 10 minutes or so from the parachute's release. We'll bring you visuals from the helicopter if we can. Right now though, high above stage 1 recovery, Electron's primary mission is continuing nominally, with the second stage powering its way to low Earth orbit. In under 2 minutes, this stage will be approaching its next event, second engine cutoff, or SECO, and then separation from its orbital transfer vehicle, the kick stage, which will carry the 2 BlackSky satellites to their destination. We won't have an immediate engine burn on the kick stage following that separation, as it goes into a coast phase while it's in an elliptical orbit before its Curie engine ignites and jolts it into a circular path for payload deployment. We'll wait to hear that stage separation call come from mission control shortly.
Guidance is in terminal, 25 seconds remaining.
And seeker confirmed.
Stage 3 separation confirmed. Nominal transfer orbit received.
There you go, another smooth achievement of our latest mission milestone. The Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage has shut down as planned, and the kick stage has now separated on its way to payload deployment in about 45 minutes or so. Meanwhile, we are getting some views from the helicopter of Electron coming back to Earth. Hopefully we'll see that soon under a parachute. Our helicopter's role here is to maintain a visual connection for as long as it can, to record data of the first stage that will help refine our operations for future Electron aerial capture attempts. Electron has around 8 minutes left in the air before it reaches the ocean. We are going to take a break now though, while the kick stage enjoys its coast phase around the Earth. Unfortunately, we won't have a live video feed of payload deployment on this mission, but we will stay with you on this webcast to bring you a simulated view of that occurring. That's expected to take place at around T plus 55 minutes into the mission. And of course, any updates we have on the final moments of our recovery operations, we'll bring them to you here live while we wait the end of the mission. But we will leave you with views from the helicopter if we can keep them up from the splashdown zone as long as we can. And I'll see you back here soon. We are standing by for confirmation of splashdown of Electron's first stage from the recovery team. If we're not able to bring you live video confirmation of that during today's webcast, we will keep you updated via our social media channels. Meanwhile, we'll be back at around T plus 52 minutes with an update ahead of payload deployment. Welcome back to the webcast of Rocket Lab's 22nd Electron mission, Love at First Insight. If you are just joining us, today's launch included a successful on-time liftoff at 2:38 p.m. New Zealand local time, or 1:38 a.m. UTC. After passing through Max-Q, Electron completed a clean first and second stage separation. While the second stage continued on its journey to orbit, we received confirmation of the first stage splashdown. We haven't been able to bring you live footage of the first stage descent from the helicopter, but we will keep you posted on today's recovery efforts via our social media channels. Meanwhile, the kick stage has completed its first pass of Earth in an elliptical orbit, and we're now waiting for its Curie engine to ignite and position it into a circular orbit, where we will drop off the 2 BlackSky satellites. For this mission, we've introduced a new deployment process with an adapted kick stage that will see 3 separation events take place. We've mounted a structure to the kick stage called a top hat, which acts as an extension of the upper stage to allow the 2 BlackSky satellites to fit within Electron's varying dimensions. The first BlackSky satellite that sits on top of the top hat will deploy first, before the top hat itself is ejected, followed by the third and final separation event, the deployment of the second BlackSky satellite. Those should happen in quick succession after the upper stage's Curie engine burn. Let's bring up this animated view of that payload deployment and listen into mission control for the callouts.
Global 14 has deployed successfully.
We have heard confirmation from Mission Control that the first BlackSky satellite has been deployed from the upper stage. That satellite will drift away for a few moments before we eject the top hat adapter, ready to deploy our second satellite.
And the adapter has deployed successfully. Stand by for the final payload.
There we go, the top hat has been ejected, clearing the way for the final deployment on this mission of the second BlackSky payload. That should take place in around 30 seconds or so let's wait for the call from our operators.
And Global 15 deployment confirmed.
There's some great news there that the second BlackSky satellite has successfully deployed by Electron on this Love at First Insight mission. So with both satellites successfully deployed, that completes tonight's 22nd Electron mission and officially brings the count of satellites deployed by Rocket Lab to 107. Thank you and congratulations to our customers BlackSky and Spaceflight for yet another successful mission. We are already looking forward to our next launch with you in a few weeks' time. A huge thank you to you at home for sticking with us through this live stream as well. We're going to end the broadcast here, but keep an eye on Rocket Lab's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages for updates on how we fared with Electron's recovery and of course all things Rocket Lab. Thank you for joining us. This is Rocket Lab Mission Control signing off.